Welcome back to another episode of Two Sisters of a Certain Age, Conversations with a Therapist
and a Doctor.
I'm your co-host, Judy Grant, licensed marriage and family therapist.
And I'm your co-host, Dr. Sophia Grant, board-certified pediatrician and board-certified child abuse pediatrician.
So, Candy, actually, before we jump in, we've been on a smidge of a hiatus.
Yes, we have. And this is the start of our 5th season.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Look at that.
Yeah,
Look at
so
that.
we have 15 episodes each season. And so this is going to be our 5th season.
Yeah. From where we started.
I know.
So during that little brief hiatus, we had some big family moments.
Huge.
You want to share a smidge of yours?
Huge. Well, my baby girl graduated from Howard University in Washington, D.C., Phi Beta Kappa, summa cum laude, and she had 2 majors and 1 minor, and like to say I was walking and I'm still on air would be an understatement. I'm so extremely proud, and
as you should be.
You had your parental moment too.
Yeah, so it was actually the same weekend that Candy was in DC for Yaya. I went up to San Francisco for Maya, and Maya is a fashion and design major. And each year the school has an annual fashion show for these fashion majors. So as a junior, you can submit 1 design, and as a senior, you can submit 5. Well, for Maya's piece, her 1 design was modeled by Angie, and then Maya herself walked and modeled for a senior. So I was seeing like both sides of it. But when Angie came out in Maya's design, I like.
Were you the loudest person there?
Definitely the most obnoxious.
Yeah, it doesn't take much.
And like just crying, like you couldn't stop me. Like I was out of my skin just to see like my baby designed that.
Yeah.
And sewed these pieces together and came up with this super yeah. So again, walking on cloud 9, and it was just a great time.
Yeah, so I think it's perfect that we have our first guest of season 5 because she is also a Howard graduate.
Right.
She is a Bison as well. Mm-hmm. And this is Alice Darby, who is an RN. And Alice and I have a lot in common. First of all, Alice and Haley are birthday twins.
Right.
So I always remember to call Alice on her birthday. And then Alice is also an immigrant. She was born in Uganda. How old were you when you moved over here?
I was 3 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
3 years old. I can't believe it.
And were any of your siblings born here?
Yes. Our youngest our youngest was born here.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And so she's in healthcare. She's a Bison. She's a birthday twin. She's an immigrant. And she's also a side hustler. And the last conversation that we had, Alice was talking about her side hustle. And I think being immigrants, we are very in tune with that side hustle mentality. And I remember when I was in medical school and in Living Single, not in Living Single, but what's the one? Keenan Ivory Wins. In Living Color.
In Living Color.
Yeah. They had the skit about the Jamaican with 15 jobs. And it would be the pilot, and he would be the flight attendant and the gardener. And I was a little bit offended, but then I started to think that when you come to America and you're trying to achieve the so-called American dream, you recognize that one job is not enough to sustain you.
Correct.
Judy and I, when we moved to America, we remember Daddy used to work in the emergency room overnight. And so that was like part of the fabric of, how we were raised. So when I had to have a side hustle, it wasn't a big deal for me. I grew up with it. So, Alice, I want to talk about your side hustle journey and what your thoughts are.
Ooh, let's see. Where do I start? Where do I start? I could say that I always say that I raised my mama's children. That was my first one. That I was a babysitter. I was a nanny. I was a housekeeper.
A cook.
A cook. A cook. And then going to school, I decided that I wanted to be an EMT. During the EMT journey, I was also a phlebotomist to get myself through school.
This was while you were at Howard?
While I was at Howard.
Uh-huh.
I was a phlebotomist. And then when I graduated from nursing school, I during that time, I got an internship at Children's Healthcare of what is it, of DC?
Children's National.
Children's National Medical Center. Correct. So I was working in the emergency room. And then while I was working in the emergency room, I then started working in the pediatric intensive care unit at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And so I got some skill sets from there.
So you were commuting?
I was commuting an hour and 45 minutes.
Wow.
Okay.
Alice.
All right.
Correct. In my Volkswagen Jetta.
Mm-hmm.
So then during that time, I also started doing home care. Okay. So home care, and then infusion nursing, doing wound care, still have my jobs, plural, in the DC area, also having my bread and butter in Philadelphia. And then we moved back to Los Angeles, starting a family. I continued to have PRN jobs in just about every hospital in the Los Angeles area.
So PRN means as needed. That's like you're on a list. If they're short a nurse, they call Alice. And
correct.
What was your main job
My
during
main
that time?
job during that time was at UCLA in the pediatric intensive care unit. But I also had, I always feel like my main job is, every job is my main job. But I also worked in the NICU at Tarzana, and also in the PICU, and also Cedar Sinai. I worked in pediatrics at Cedar Sinai, and while I was at Cedar Sinai, that's when I started getting hits from patients' parents, whether or not they said, can I go home with them? And then I was like, as their babies were getting discharged,
right?
Can I go home with them? And I was like, go home. Initially, I was like offended. I was like, wait a minute. Because then I was like, the ball started going in my head.
Right.
I'm like, okay, noted. So then I started as their babies would be discharged, I'd give them my phone number, and they would call me to stay overnight with their babies. And their babies didn't need anything other than to be held and fed by a nurse. That's it.
So that was kind of like easy money.
That's it was very easy money. Very, very, very easy money. It was nothing to it. Most of the time.
But hold on. It was overnight, so you weren't sleeping. When were you sleeping, Alice?
I made arrangements with the parents that if the baby was sleeping, so would I.
Okay. Okay.
So would I. I am a very light sleeper. So that, if the baby would stir, I'd get up.
Okay, got it.
So I did that while I was doing all of the other jobs as well. At times I would be working at some point 7 days a week. And it's funny because, Candy, when we met, I was at that point a mom.
Right. Mom of one. Now she's a mom of three.
A mom of one. And it's funny because I made it look like I actually didn't work.
No, you never seemed pressed.
I didn't. It was people. A lot of people always, do you even work? I'm like, yeah, I've got like 9 jobs.
Right.
So then I did the baby nursing at that time, and then the twins, our twins were born, and I continued to keep a side hustle here, a side hustle there. And then during that time actually is when I started getting pings from attorneys to review medical records.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, so it was always in the back of my mind,
Right.
maybe I could do this. I don't know. But then I was raising our children.
Right.
So then, now it's almost been 19 years ago. We moved to the Atlanta area,
Mm-hmm.
continued my passion for side hustling.
Right.
The main basis for side hustling is so that I could be at home with my kids and my family when they're.
Yeah, it's kind of like you need the extra income so you could do things on your terms.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. So same thing, baby nursing. I initially started with a company, with a local company here doing baby nursing, but then I did it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I'd done in LA, and then I went in Atlanta area. I did pediatric intensive care, NICU, home care. I currently still do that. Let's see, school nursing. Judy had to remind me about that as well. School nursing. Let's see. And then during that time as well, I decided, well, I've always had a love of gardening.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that as well now. And I also do consulting for gardening as well.
Wait, I didn't know about that.
That part. Candy, I don't know what is going on with me. But yes, that.
You're like a master gardener.
Not yet. Not yet. I am currently taking classes to officially become a master gardener.
What?
Oh my God, Alice, that's fabulous.
Yes. So that part. And then also within the last 2 years, I have become a legal nurse consultant, and I opened my own consulting business as well.
Wow. Now tell us, well, first of all, a couple of things. Sure. How did people reach out to you to inquire? For anybody listening, how did people reach you? Were you on LinkedIn and you listed it, or what?
For
any of them, for the baby nursing, for the legal stuff.
Strictly word of mouth.
Okay.
Baby nursing, it has been word of mouth. People know what I do in the community at my children's school. I really don't. I never advertised that I did baby nursing. So and then what I got really good at is twin baby nursing, because I have twins.
Right.
So, and helping moms of multiples, sleep train their babies. So I got really good at that, and that was my niche. So yeah, that part. And then the legal nurse consulting, same thing. I would do, medical records for an attorney, and then they, word of mouth, same thing. So, but now I am on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and that brings up a point that frequently when you want to get into an industry or do something, you just need to start telling people.
Correct.
That's how I currently have my job. Hey, I want to get back to California. And somebody's going to say, wait, there's that woman who said, let me call her. So, they say a closed mouth doesn't get fed. Tell everybody. There's no shame in letting people know what you want.
Correct.
And that you're available, and open. It's when I think of my private practice, I've never advertised that, but it's like, I'm a friend of so-and-so and they told me to contact you, and it's just word of mouth. And it also allows me to keep it relatively small than if I blast it out there. I can't take 25 clients, but I can take 6 clients.
So, Judy, what's your side hustle? You got your main job and you have other side hustles.
Job. I have my main job as Director of Equity and Inclusion, and my professorial job at Cal State LA, where I teach child development, and my private practice that I do whenever a client is in need.
And my side hustle, currently I serve as a legal medical expert witness, and I'm an expert for the medical board for the state of California. So those are my two.
But Candy, you also review medical records.
Yeah, I mean that goes into the
Okay.
yeah,
All right. I'm like,
yeah,
let's not forget
yeah.
that.
That
Right.
case paid for my bathroom, my new
Right.
bathroom.
Right. Right.
Bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, now what does the legal stuff entail? Do you read through everything and give a nursing standpoint? Do you write it up? What does that entail?
Sure. I read through it and I can I read through the medical records and do like a merit review. Does the case have any merit?
Mm-hmm.
Do I, if it does have a merit and they give it to me and we start on it, I go through the medical records and do like depends on what they want, the attorney might want. I'll do a chronology of the events and then I may write up a narrative of actually what happened, a short narrative, because as you know, many of these medical records are 30,000 pages.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
So
not an exaggeration.
that is not an exaggeration. And a legal person cannot do what medical people do.
Right,
They
Right.
just can't.
Right.
They
Yeah.
can't understand it. They can't anything.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I do. And I also do expert witnessing for PIC line nurses or PIC line nursing as well.
Uh-huh.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the fact that the three of us, none of us would be able to do these side hustles if it wasn't for that core piece of
The main job.
education without the main one,
Correct.
right? I would have never been able to get the teaching position. I would have not been able to end up in an agency where I end up being the director. And it's when I think when you're in school, you're like, oh, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a therapist. Okay, that's great. But there's so many other opportunities within that we might not recognize immediately. And it's just that door opens and suddenly, these other opportunities come up.
Correct. Correct. I don't know. It's funny because when I see the younger nurses coming about now that they have, I just want to do one thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's
Like
so many things to be
Right.
done.
I think we're so conditioned, and I don't know if it's an immigrant thing, but we're
Mm.
so conditioned
Mhm.
to have multiple income
Correct.
streams
Correct.
that when somebody says, "I'm just content with this one job," you're like, "Why are they so lazy?"
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And I'm just and when I moved back to California, mommy, she said, "Candy, please, me no want you working at night anymore. Me no," and it was like it really was difficult for me to say, I have the extra time, let me do this.
Right.
But I wasn't as strapped financially. And then this medical expert thing fell into my lap
Yes.
where
Mm-hmm.
somebody just
Mm-hmm.
kind of pulled me to the side and then word of mouth and and the good thing about it is you get to claim your Wi-Fi, your home office when you
Yes.
do your taxes, and
Yes.
then you can do a SEP IRA, which is an
Yes.
IRA pertaining to the income you generate from the
Correct.
side hustle stuff.
Correct.
So
Correct.
with your side hustle money, are you using it for maintenance? Are you using it to send your kids to school? Are you using it for travel? Do you have it allocated any special way?
So I'm lucky that I'm blessed to have a husband that holds us down.
Uh-huh. Nice.
And I am not lost on that. But we also have three children, one that went to University of Spoiled Children, and the others are twins. So
Mhm.
the double
Yeah.
Yeah.
the the double tuition. And excuse me, we do like to travel.
Yeah.
Love
Right.
to travel.
And you're
Um,
not staying in hostels.
and we are not staying in a hostel.
Mm-hmm.
Not doing it. Not doing it.
Mm-mm.
Right.
So yes, my income supplements, all of the extra stuff. If we want to, I have a love of gardening.
Mm-hmm.
Plant, plants can be costly. I have
Oh
ways.
yeah.
They can be costly. I have ways that now that I know how to, make my own plants and propagate things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
they can be costly. I like a nice furniture and things like that. So that's what I.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Mhm.
When I was married, my side hustle, I used to work at in the express care for a hospital, and I would like go shopping for furniture, calculate how many shifts it took to
Basically.
get that furniture, and then I would do those shifts, and that
Right.
would pay for the extra
Mhm.
stuff in the house. Sadly,
Correct.
when I was in Texas, and if you can refer back to the divorce episode, I was left with an
Yeah.
expensive lifestyle, private school
Right.
tuition, big house. And so
Hmm.
my side hustle was actually sustaining me. Like
Yeah.
without my side hustle, I would
Yeah.
Right.
not have been able to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I've always said how blessed I felt that I
Correct.
had that. And it
Correct.
wasn't like I wasn't mopping anybody's floors. You
Right.
know,
Right.
I was
Mhm.
I was working as a physician, and it sustained me, and I currently don't need a side hustle, but if an opportunity for money comes up, yeah, I'll do
Yeah.
it.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Right.
funny because a couple months ago I had a conversation with somebody from the hospital, and they wanted me to like take on another shift of theirs, but and then they said, "God, what are you doing anyway?"
Are
I
you
was
serious?
like,
Wait, what?
they were like, "Why couldn't I do that shift?" I mean,
Right.
because I'm free. That they
Right.
think I'm free.
Uh-huh.
Right.
That
Mhm.
they think that is my only
Right.
stream of income.
Right.
Right.
How did you respond? I'd be like, I'm a grown ass woman. No.
And so, I had to hold those words back because, I can snap at somebody. But
Mhm.
I did not. I did not say that.
Right.
I said, if you only knew, no, I cannot work that day. Thank
Mhm.
you.
You
You
know
know,
what?
oh,
I just
go
have
ahead,
to
Candy.
say, I'm a grown ass woman. I said that twice this past week. Like, I'm a grown ass black woman. I'm 58 years old. I said that twice this past week.
I might say it
Uh,
too.
Something that I just realized that if any of the three of us had the main 9 to 5 taken
Hey,
away, we would still be able to dig into the side hustles and expand on that to make that more of a full-time gig if we needed.
correct.
So it's kind of it's nice knowing that, oh, tomorrow I could start advertising myself as a licensed marriage and family therapist. I could
Correct.
start having more clients if I chose.
Right.
So it's also nice knowing that you can have that as a backup.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'm not saying I don't want people to get the opinion or the idea that we're saying everybody needs to be hustling like that.
mm-mm.
This is just
Hmm.
something that we have
It works
done
for us.
and
It
it
works
works
for
for
us.
us.
Hmm.
It works
Um,
for us.
if you have your one job and you're totally content and you're doing what you need to do, amen. God bless you. But
Right.
this has just been our experience.
Right.
And one of the things that Alice and I talked about before we started recording was that I feel so happy to have these jobs because I love each of them,
Correct.
and it's allowed me to expand on who I am and experience other pieces of me that fulfills the
Right.
whole piece of me,
Right.
you
Right.
know and so I think like when I started teaching, I had just mentioned it to a colleague, like, yeah, one day I'd like to teach. A couple months later, she's like, Judy, there's an opening. Do you want to do it? And I jumped on it. And that my first night in that class, I think, Candy, I told you, it's like, oh, this is what I was meant to do.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it was another, it's very, very, the class that I teach is a very therapeutic.
Right.
So it really made sense with my MFT. But it's like, oh my gosh. And the students, I love that. I
Hmm.
can't beat that. So
Hmm.
I'm really glad that I have these different aspects of my work that really fulfill all of me.
So I have a question for either one of you. Do any of your children have that side hustle mentality?
I would say Yaya, definitely. Because when she was in college, she was tutoring and
Mm.
she was making $25 an hour as a 17-year-old in college. And she was tutoring a kid who lives in California and she was in DC. And she has persisted in the tutoring, and then she has worked as a stylist for
Mm.
films, and now she's actually being commissioned to make costumes. So, and all of that fell into her lap.
Hmm.
She ran into somebody who, well, my brother, her uncle, referred her to the kid who needed tutoring, and the costuming thing was she just was talking to somebody. He said, yeah, my costumist just quit the job. And she said, I can do it.
Hmm.
And then that snowballed into other things. I think Haley definitely, she has a little occasional side gig where she'll do travel agent stuff, do itineraries and make reservations and do rugs. My son, I mean, his side hustle is that he models sometimes, but I don't think, like, when I sent my Haley to college, she was on a scholarship and she was constantly applying, and she'd be like, I got 3,000, I got 2,000, that. And my son went to Morehouse on a scholarship, and he never looked for anything else. That was
Hmm.
it. So I think him to a lesser degree, but the girls more so. But I remember I used to work so hard that I had a conversation with my son. I said, Boogie, I want you to be aware that you've always seen your mother work, but the level I was working when I was in Texas for 7 years is not what I would ideally want to do.
Hmm.
And
Right.
I told him, I don't want you to think that this is normal, that when you get married, your wife is supposed to have 3 and 4 jobs. That
Hmm.
that was not normal, and
This
that
is not normal.
that was not ideal, and it wasn't necessary. It was out of necessity. Now what
Yeah.
I do is just kind of, I can pick and choose.
Hmm.
But I think, yeah, I definitely do think that my girls got that kind. Oh, and then Haley, oh my gosh, Haley worked as a photographer when she
Mm.
That's
was in New
right.
York, and she was getting paid gigs and doing graduation shoots. And yeah, I forgot about that. And that was
Hmm.
just kind of like, oh, you take pictures. Yeah. So I think
Right.
they got some of it.
Hmm.
How about
Yeah.
yours,
Hmm.
Judy?
Mine, let me think. I think Maxine, she is open to it. I think if it falls into her lap, she will. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know that she will like pursue it on her own.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, she works as a behavioral interventionist at an elementary school. And, school hours, school ends at 3 o'clock. And a family approached her saying, hey, would you be interested in coming after school to our home to work with our child? And so she has done that. But again, they came to her. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
that she would have been looking to do that.
Right,
So
right, right.
that has worked out. I think Maya, she has a bit more of that side hustle in her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she isn't like a working girl
Mm-hmm.
um, quite yet, but while she's in school, she is tapping into her drawing, her her singing, writing poetry. She's tapping into these different elements
Creative
of
side.
the
Mm-hmm.
of the
Mm-hmm.
creative side. And it's like sometimes she'll send me, I just drew this, I just sang this, I just did this. I'm like, where do you have the time? So I think when the time comes to truly
Right.
work, if Maya is able to keep exploring her creativity in different jobs, I think she absolutely will.
Mm-hmm.
Grayson, he's just finishing up his first year of school. We're looking desperately for a summer job because he needs one. Um, so I can't really say yet what that would look like for him, but I think they grew up with it.
Right.
They grew up with it, and it's like, okay, everybody, I've got a client. Don't bother me for the next hour.
Mhm.
So they see me going to work, and then coming home and doing work here. Um, so I think it's probably in the back of all of their minds.
And Judy, your kids saw you working and then going to school. Remember, there was
Mhm.
that overlap?
Yep.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And I don't know how you did it. Because Judy is a woman who's like always cooking dinner and, you know, instead of like saying have cereal for dinner,
A
she's
proper
like,
mother. A proper.
she's acting like a proper mother. And her sister, on the other hand, is like, what about those that toaster strudel and pizza pocket? Yeah, yeah. So we cope differently. But I will say my side hustle uh made my son be able to pan sear salmon and
Hey.
grill asparagus, and
Hey.
like when he wants to impress him, and it's a really an easy meal, but when you plate it
Right.
it looks
Oh
lovely,
yeah. Oh
so
yeah.
that yeah, he's able to do that stuff. It kind of forced independence. So I
Yeah.
have some side hustle stats. 28% of people who have side hustles make $500 or more a month.
Okay.
12% make $1,000 or more. And most people who side hustle, they do things like Uber Eats and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily that highly technical stuff
Right.
that we have. And
Mhm.
then Gen Z, 18 to 27, 48% of them have a side hustle.
Mm.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I know. And then from 28 to 43, 44% of them have a side hustle. And then our generation, it's a third, 33%. And then the boomers is 23% because they don't necessarily need the income. Now, the thing, when I think of like side hustle, I think
Right.
eventually when I retire, my side hustle might be my like little retirement stuff to keep
No,
Yes.
my
no,
brain
no.
going.
Yes.
Seriously, I've
Yes.
said the same.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing.
Because I
Yeah.
cannot imagine just waking up and going for a walk and going to the supermarket and not doing anything with my
No.
brain.
Right.
No. No.
Right.
I don't
Right.
feel like I will ever truly retire
No.
No,
because I'll
yeah,
have to be doing something. And so maybe that's when I'm teaching more classes, or that's
Right.
when I have more clients, whatever it might be. But Candy, you're right. I'm not
You're
just going to
right.
be just chilling doing nothing.
Mm-mm.
yeah,
My
yeah.
husband often says, oh gosh, when we're, let's try to retire before we're 60. I'm like,
Who
man,
said that? Who says
my
that?
husband, Eric,
Uh-huh.
he often says that. I'm like, I'm 53 and I still got it going on. And
Right.
I
Yes, yes,
feel
you
like
do.
I haven't even peaked. I'm
No,
like,
no,
what are you
I
talking about?
tell Kitty this. I feel like I'm just hitting my stride.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh, I am
yes.
in my zone. I
Yes.
love it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I feel like I'm the things that bring me joy is the ability to continue to learn. And I
Yes,
feel like I'm
Yes.
learning and retaining better than when I was in my 20s and 30s and 40s.
because
Really.
Right.
you don't have the kids to raise. You don't have the like, Boy Scout meeting and the
Oh,
PTA stuff in the
oh,
back of
Yeah.
your head.
oh, yes. Correct.
Not
Correct.
Oh,
doing the
I
drop
have
off and pick up. Yeah.
right.
oh,
So yeah,
that is such a relief.
oh, such a relief. So he says that, okay, fine, I can continue to work and I'll be his sugar mama, things like
Mm-hmm.
that. I'm like, okay, sure, buddy. But I'll be a happy sugar mama gardening and
Mm-hmm.
my
Mm-hmm.
LNC stuff for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to, say one thing that I didn't do that actually was probably the most rewarding thing that I did was I was a death doula. Did we talk about that, Candy,
No,
before?
you know
We
what? We
had
had
a
a death
death doula
doula
on.
on, but
Okay.
I think, I mean, talk about that.
Yeah.
So yes, one of my home care jobs transitioned that I was doing infusion therapy for a gentleman in Atlanta that transitioned from infusion therapy to, I was there. I would receive phone calls from the family if anything was up, just some like nursing advice,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then he became terminal and asked me if I can sit with him,
Trans.
as he transitioned.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I did for 4 days. I
Wow.
did
Mm,
4 days.
Now,
mhm.
what was that like? I mean, because as a
Wow.
nurse, you're trying to sustain life and do everything.
Right.
Correct.
What was it kind of switching that off? And
It did. It did. But it was the most rewarding thing. Probably, I'm going to say that I've ever done.
really,
Wow.
Um,
Mhm.
you're there not just for him,
mm-hmm.
but I was there for the family as
Right.
well.
Uh-huh.
Um, you know, from the time that he, decided that, well, that he couldn't eat anymore,
Mm-hmm.
all the way to, when we saw him becoming weak and what to do. And it wasn't just for him and cleaning and wiping and all the things and making sure that he's comfortable, whether, it's positional or medicine
Mm-hmm.
related. It's also all of the things around the home,
Right.
the family. He had children, he had a wife, he had family members that came by as well. And I was everybody's nurse,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's
Mm.
nurse, all the way up until the end. All the way up until the end. So I wasn't the hospice nurse. I was
Right.
the hospice nurse.
Doula. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
the
That must have really fed your soul.
It fed my soul
Wow.
in ways that even I wasn't prepared for. I was not
Right.
prepared for. Yeah.
I have a friend, and she was a nurse before she was a nurse practitioner, and she said that she found that her niche was to be with people as they were dying. She
Correct.
said she
Wow.
it was so gratifying,
Mhm.
and it's not anything that you set out to do.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
But when, I mean, there's so much anxiety and fear, and
Wow.
she was able to be a calming presence,
Mhm.
and
Correct.
she really, really liked that aspect of her nursing career. Now,
Correct.
you have told me that you have a brother in law who is always, can you tell us some of the stuff he does to like do a side hustle? Like what are
Oh,
his tips and tricks?
I don't. I'll tell you. His name is Perry. He is
Uh-huh.
married to my sister Florence, who's one of my best friends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Perry is an MD.
Mm-hmm.
He's also a JD.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh,
Mhm.
attorney and okay.
Correct.
Is
Uh,
it
he,
overachiever? Uh-huh.
I'm sorry. He is also a professor at a local high-profile university in the DC area.
Mm-hmm.
He works for a very Google
Mm-hmm.
also. So
Wow.
yes, Perry does a lot of things. I don't think that those are the only things that he does. So,
Uh-huh.
oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
He's also um, our family job finder, headhunter.
Uh-huh.
If
Mhm.
anybody is looking for a gig, Perry, he doesn't sleep very well in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll wake up and he has sent you about 10 LNC jobs.
Mm-hmm.
10 when I was doing, primarily, nursing, baby nursing, I'd wake up and it'd be 10 jobs, and he will stay on you until, you send in the resume or send your resume to him. So
Now,
yeah.
is he American?
He is American, girl. He is from Pine Bluff, Arkansas. We all believe he's African or Jamaican. He's Caribbean. It's crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But you told
Uh,
me one time he
Yes.
was like just looking at Indeed or one of those places, and this company needed a doctor for something. And
Yes.
it was like this quick little thing, and
Correct.
he did the job, made tons of money, and it wasn't
Correct.
anything illegal. It
No.
was, and And so when you told me that, I kind of started to look at these kind of temporary things where I can make, but
Mm-hmm.
you have to check all the time.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
you have to. That and that in fact that is my spirit hustling relative. I mean I really can't believe that he's American. I
Mm-hmm.
no shade to Americans that hustle,
Uh-huh.
Right.
but
Uh-huh.
I believe that our blood, the Caribbean and African blood for side hustling is like
Uh-huh.
no
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I love that. I
Yes.
love I love a go-getter.
Yeah.
Like people talk about the Kardashians, and I'm not a fan of the Kardashians.
Neither am I.
But
But
let me tell you something. They have managed to parlay
Yes.
one sex tape
One.
into an empire.
Yeah.
And not just for the participant, for the
Right.
sibs. And
the
I'm
whole
just
family.
like, I look at them and like I've never watched their show. I
Correct.
I but I know all their names. I
Mhm.
and because the publicity machine that
Correct.
keeps them going. And
Correct.
anytime I see like, I'm no fan of Dr. Phil. But Dr. Phil, his wife had a TV show.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's like, well, what makes you qualify? And I am not mad at anybody who
Right.
sees an opportunity and
Right.
is
Mm-hmm.
trying to make money from. As long
Mm-hmm.
as you're not
Mm-hmm.
victimizing people or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that.
Mhm.
But that kind of hustle mentality,
Right.
I I like it. I
Right.
Yeah.
really do.
Look,
Like I find that very attractive.
right.
Right.
You know who I'm attracted to?
Too.
Chris Kardashian, the ultimate,
Oh,
the mom,
yeah.
Yeah.
the mom.
Mm-hmm.
That is the ultimate hustler.
Yeah, and I heard it's so crazy that we don't like him, but we're talking about him.
We're talking
But
about him.
but let me tell you something. I heard that Chris was married to Bruce, who was now Caitlyn.
Correct.
Caitlyn, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and at the time Bruce was kind of, an Olympic athlete and not really doing much. And
Mhm.
then they started advertising for some exercise machine. And it was Chris who sought that out. And the two of them were in that commercial. And so they got Bruce from former Wheaties guy,
Yes.
dwindling decathloner,
Right.
into
Mm-hmm.
this hustle. And then she parlayed that into
Correct.
an empire.
Correct.
So, I
Wow.
mean, I may not agree with the means and things like that, but this is a woman who
Mhm.
is always thinking of how to make the
Correct.
next buck.
Correct.
And
Right.
Correct.
I admire that. I
I
really do.
yeah. Yep.
Mm.
Yeah.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Ditto. Ditto.
Mm.
Ditto.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
big ups to our own parents that
Yeah.
also showed us the
Now,
same.
when
Right.
you came here, what did you see your parents doing to sustain
Oh
your
my goodness.
family?
So we came here as immigrants,
Mm,
and I remember now my family in Uganda, we had means, and we had housekeepers and nannies and things like that.
yeah.
So because we came here for political reasons, and we came with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
My mom became a housekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
She had to feed the children. My dad was working in a factory at some point. I think it was like a banana factory.
Mm-hmm.
He became a security guard. Then he went to school and he became a pastor. And then he went to seminary. So, and during that time, he also had other side hustles
Mm-hmm.
as
Mm-hmm.
well to feed his family. So,
Right.
Right.
he became a linguist for the courts as his
Oh.
main job. So,
Mm.
because he spoke 7 languages that
He
he
spoke
learned.
seven languages?
He spoke 7 languages.
Damn.
This is one of the things I remember him, like when we would go to whatever store, Ralph's, California, whatever. He would speak Hindi to the Indians. He would speak French. He would speak Spanish. He would speak Chikuyu, different dialects, different languages from Africa. Yeah, we were like, what? He
Mm-hmm.
would
Wow.
always say, yeah, I understand a lot, but as your dad, you think that he's bragging, but he would have full on conversations with people. So then he became a linguist for the courts.
Wow.
Wow. Wow. And
Yeah.
what
That's
did your
that's
mother
amazing.
end up doing?
She became a nurse. She sure did.
And let me tell you something. I tell people interested in medicine, do not discount nursing,
Hey,
because I really
hey,
I let me tell you, the nurses I know have the most flexible jobs because
yes,
they can work 2 days, 3 days overnight. I met a woman, she had 5 kids, she was a nurse, never used a babysitter
correct.
because she and her husband worked opposite shifts. Then I met a woman, or I met a doctor who he married a nurse when he was in residency. So he met this woman, she was a nurse, and everybody thought, ooh, you're getting yourself a doctor, blah, blah, blah. So over the course, and he was an ER doctor, over the course of their relationship, she went to school and she got a master's in health administration. Then she became the chief financial officer
Oh.
of the hospital, with access to a private jet, and her husband retired early.
Right.
Ha!
So, and he
Ha!
was a nurse.
Right.
The CFO of my hospital currently is a nurse. So there are lots of opportunities for
Lots,
us. Yes.
See,
lots
this
for us.
this goes back to what I said about that core piece of education that you have can
Correct.
really push you into these other fields that maybe you didn't think of initially.
Correct.
It's
Yep.
it's just getting that core.
Yep.
Once you got it, then you can expand on it in so many different ways. But
Right.
Alice, I want to come back to your gardening for a second because that's not about nursing. Yes,
Mhm.
it's about taking care of living things,
Hmm.
but it's hands in the dirt. So where did that come from, and how is it that you are now almost a master gardener and people
Mm.
pay you
I
to
love,
assist them?
I love it. So my people in Uganda, we grow our own food.
Mhm.
We do. We grow our own food. So I saw my mother uh, doing that in in Southern California,
Mhm.
in small gardens. The properties in Southern California are not large, but she would always have a space to grow tomatoes, to grow the various leaves that she knew were edible, various
Mhm.
herbs that she fed us. So I saw that, and and in going back to Uganda, we would be on our property and I would see my aunts and my uncles digging in the dirt. So, you know, translating it to myself now as, an avid gardener, it is my therapy. It is.
Mhm.
Yes. Mhm.
You know who I'm nursing? I am nursing myself.
Mhm.
Mm.
I am nursing
Oh.
myself every day. In the mornings, I am there. I mean, I'm almost emotional about it. How much it nurtures me.
Wow.
Yes. I as I pick the weeds, I am often I can't hear anything else but the birds,
Mhm.
right? And I feel like the birds are speaking to me. I feel like my
Okay,
ancestors.
Snow White.
Mhm.
I'm serious. I feel like the birds are speaking to me. The dirt, I could be scared of the worms, the enormous Georgia worms, but I'm not. They're there. They're
Mhm.
speaking to me. The dirt in my nails. It
Mhm.
is therapy to me.
Mhm.
Wow.
The smells that I get.
Do,
It's
do you
nothing.
feel a connection to the ancestors?
I do. I really do.
Mhm.
Um, Shout out to a mutual friend, Francine,
Mhm.
who, when my father passed away in 2018, she sent me some wind chimes, and I hung them up in my garden, in the trees in my garden. And every time the wind blows,
You think of
I
your
Mhm.
believe that my father is speaking to me.
Mhm.
Mhm.
He is. And
That's
so I'm out
beautiful.
there. Yes, as the raindrops hit the wind chimes, I believe he's speaking to me. It's and I now the children, whenever they're out there, I'm like, did his name is Judge Daddy say anything to you today? They're like, yeah, he did. I heard him. So yeah, my garden is very special to me, very very special.
So
That's
this is an
beautiful.
example of taking a passion
Yes.
and making it into a side hustle. And the side hustle part of that, I know you didn't go into it for that, but it's just been an extension of this passion that you have. So how beautiful it is when you find something that you are so passionate about, that provides that nurturing, that therapeutic, that peace, that calm,
Mm-hmm.
and you can make money off of it. I mean, it's like to perfection.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Alice, thank you so much for joining us. I forgot another thing Alice and I have in common. We're Morehouse moms.
Yes.
Yes, we are Morehouse moms.
We are.
And we could get together and talk about what Morehouse has done for our sons.
Yes.
And
Yes.
we would be talking forever. But
Forever.
yes.
Forever.
Yes.
Best,
So
best for our sons.
and then guess what? Her son is going to be at a program this summer run by my son in
That's
San Francisco.
right. That is right.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So it's been just lovely chatting with you, and thank you so much for joining us. And if anybody wants your legal services, for Georgia,
yes, hit me up. My email is alice.darby@akdlnc.com. That is my email. Or look at www.akdlnc.com.
Okay. All right.
And LinkedIn, Alice Kasuli-Darby.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, blessings to you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
It's been
Bye-bye.
such a pleasure. So hold on, Candy. Not so
what?
fast. We just want to thank our Tusoka audience for joining us today. And please, 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 we love you coming back. We love the reviews. We love the comments. If there's anything you'd like to share with us, please feel free to reach out. So, Candy, how can our folks find us?
twosokapodcast@gmail.com. We're on Instagram at Two Sisters of a Certain Age. We're on YouTube at Tusoka. And I think that's it.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
All right. So until the next time, we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
No Longer Network.